This is Joshua Hart here for Seconds Out. Delighted today to be joined by 1-0 prospect Lillie Winch. Lillie, first of all, thank you very much for your time today. And how is everything?
It's all good, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. We'll get straight into things. September 7th, live on DAZN, you'll be having your second professional fight. How excited are you to be back in the ring?
Yeah, I'm excited. This camp's been a little bit tougher this time. I think because I went from fight straight into fight, my body's giving up on me slowly. Um, but yeah, no, I'm excited. I've done a lot of tickets this time. And I'm just excited to have everyone there that wasn't there last time. And I think it'll be a good night.
And before we obviously look more into the second fight of your career, how do you reflect on your professional debut?
Yeah, I just think I don't know, it doesn't even feel real if I'm honest. It just kind of like it happened and it was like, whoa. And loads of things come off the back of it. It was unreal.
And what were the emotions like just before the fight?
Before I was really nervous. I think you always think like, what if you freeze? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if it doesn't go as you think it's gonna go? Um, yeah, I was really nervous, and then I got my gloves on in the change room and I chilled out a little bit. And then when we started to walk out, that's when it proper hit me, and I was like, "Alright, cool, I've got to put a game face on." And then when I had to do my walkout and I see all my friends and family at the railings right next to it, I was fine.
How important was it for you to just remain focused on the task at hand and not be phased by the big crowd around the ring?
Yeah, important. I think some people get carried away with that. And I think sometimes it's easy to get carried away with that as well, but it's important that you remember why you're there and what the main job is. It's not a social outing for you anyway.
Um, what have you been able to take away from the whole experience of your professional debut, both in and out the ring, that's helped you prepare for your upcoming fight?
I think like you just realize what's coming now. You realize that the media side comes with it. You realize that you're gonna have to do interviews and you're gonna have to get up sometimes early to go out here and do different stuff like with tickets, media days and stuff like that. Last time I was a bit like, oh, I've never done this before, never done this before. Whereas this time I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know how to do this last time, I had to do this last time. So yeah, it just gives you a bit more view into what's gonna happen for the foreseeable as well.
And before this interview, I've been doing some research on your story and your career, and I'd say you've got a pretty remarkable and inspiring story to people out there about how you got into boxing and how you've obviously
Yeah.
now made boxing your career. If you could you just tell us that story for the people who may not be aware?
Yeah, so I started boxing when I was about 16, 17, because I got kicked out of school. I think I got kicked out of school about 12 times. Um, yeah, I didn't get kicked out, I got excluded 12 times. I had the highest exclusion record in my school. And I just hated the environment. I hated being there. I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't sit still in a lesson or anything. My mum was like, we need to get your anger sorted because I just used to lose my temper and punch walls and stuff like that, trash my room. And then I used to play football and football never cut it for me. And then she took me down to one of her friend's brother's Muay Thai gyms and was like, you just hit the pads, just get some anger out. So I started off by doing that about once a week, grew that to twice a week. I just enjoyed it, to be honest, and it did make me feel a lot better. Um, and then one of my friends, her uncle had a gym and we was on holiday and he was like, yeah, yeah, when we get back, come down. So I went down there and I met Mark, who's my coach now. And he trained me and he made me feel sick on my first session. I cried. It was like the worst session ever. And then after he was like, "Oh, let us know if you want to come back. Just give us a message." And we got in the car. My mum was like, "You don't want to go back, do you?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "You do?" I was like, "Yeah." And that was it, really. I went back and I carried on training with him. And then we set a goal to at least have my first fight. And then we planned my fight, and then lockdown hit. Carried on training all the way through lockdown, and then had my first fight ever. And then I think I had four on the white collar scene, and then I had five in the amateurs. I didn't really get on well in the amateurs. I didn't really like the amateur style. And then we just decided to turn over.
Well, a very remarkable story. Obviously, yeah, I think most people after having their first boxing session, if they felt sick, I don't think they'd want to go back. But
Yeah.
there's a lot about yourself. And then I've also obviously been reading about and seeing that you sparred someone like fighters like Caroline Dubois and Skye Nicholson. What were those spars like, first of all?
Skye I sparred quite a while ago now. I think it was about 2.5 years ago I sparred her. So she worked with me quite a lot. I was very fresh in the sport. Um, yeah, she worked with me quite a lot. She dropped me in the last 10 seconds, which I was gutted about. She hit me with a body shot. Um, and then I looked at the clock, so I had 10 seconds. I was like, I've got to get back up, got straight back up. And then that was the last time I sparred her, to be fair. And then Caroline Dubois, that was good spar. That was a really good spar. We were like going at it for 8 rounds. Um, but I don't think that they thought I'd be able to do 8 rounds. So they was like, "You sure you want 8 rounds?" We were like, "Yeah, we'll have 8 rounds." But yeah, that was a good spar. To be fair, I enjoyed that one.
And what experiences are you able to take away? Obviously, I know they're obviously from what the sounds like two different types of spars, but like what experience have you been able to take away from both of them?
Just being in there with like elite fighters, really. You can't take that experience away from someone. Being in there with someone who's had a couple of fights is good, but being in there with two girls who have been to the Olympics and set on to do big things in their career is just like it's unreal experience, and you can't take that away from someone. So to be able to be in there and hold my own against two girls at that level, it's like I should be able to go in there with any girl below that and hold my own.
And Skye Nicholson makes history in the next fight as she's part of the first ever women's title fight out in Riyadh season. Who do you believe wins between her and Raven Chapman?
I think Skye Nicholson edges it for me. I think the way she keeps her distance, her feet, the way she always gets back to the center of the ring, I think she'll make it really hard for Raven Chapman to come on the inside. Um, so I do think Skye Nicholson edges it for me. I think she wins that fight. Um, but yeah, looking
And then
forward to that card. That's a good card, that one.
it is a very, very good card.
Yeah, it's unreal.
Out of all the fights on that card, which fight stands out the most to you as like a real fight of the night?
I'm really excited for the Joe Cordina Shakur Stevenson one. I'm really excited for that one. I think Joe is a really good fighter, but so is Shakur Stevenson. I feel like we've not really seen Stevenson have a big test like that, and I think Joe is a good test. This is his first fight at lightweight as well, if I'm right.
Yeah.
So I think that would be quite a good fight, and the Fabio Wardley fight I'm really excited for.
Do you feel with Joe Cordina it could be a bit of a bad time for him to catch Shakur? Obviously, he's just recently moved gyms and started training under Ben Davison and Barry Smith. Do you feel if he doesn't have enough time to settle in, obviously the fight week's only about 7 weeks away now?
Um, Joe's an elite fighter, and I think he knows what he's doing. Um, so I think he's very boxing smart. His IQ is very 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 good. So I think even if he didn't settle in, he'd kind of know what he's got to do on the night. So I don't think it would affect him if I'm honest.
And then
Um, but yeah,
you mentioned obviously Fabio Wardley, Fraser Clark too. Obviously, we all remember what happened last time they fought on Easter Sunday this year. How do you see the rematch between the two playing out?
I don't know. I think Fabio Wardley's really got a lot of heart, but I do think Fraser Clark's a good boxer, and he boxed really well last time. I don't know. I really don't know.
Do you feel the effects of the first fight could have possibly taken a toll on them and it could possibly open up for the exact same type of fight in the rematch?
I reckon the later rounds could end up like the last fight, but I think the first one they'll both try and be a bit smarter, a little bit more switched on and focused, and think about what they're doing instead of just having a big brawl with each other. But I do think the last couple of rounds will probably be feisty.
And then just one last bit on yourself. Again, while I was doing research, I've seen you mention that Tyson Fury is a very big inspiration of yours. What is it about him that has inspired you so much?
he he obviously struggles a lot, like myself, and for to see someone who's a world champion like the highest level. in his weight class, and to see how things affect him, it's so normal. And it's like, I think when you're going through it yourself, you think, oh, this isn't normal. I shouldn't feel like this. I shouldn't feel like this. But to see someone at a higher level feel like that as well and feel the exact same how you feel, then it makes you feel like, okay, cool, this is normal. And I just have to get through it, and I will get through it, because if he done it, then I can do it.
And then next time out for Tyson Fury is probably the biggest fight of his career as he looks to bounce back from defeat for the first time. What do you feel he needs to do in order to overcome and defeat Oleksandr Usyk?
I think he needs to be. I feel like last time he wasn't as switched on as he usually is. He's usually really focused. Um, but I think he just needs to zone in and lock in and really focus on what the job is and not worry about everything going on around it. But I'd love to see him win that fight. I'd love to see him win that fight for himself, really.
Fair enough. And then finally, what can the fans who are going to be attending the show on September 7th, also watching live on the zone, what can they expect from Lillie Winch that night?
They can expect some good boxing, um, some hard punches, a good engine in me this time. But yeah, just a good night of boxing, really. I don't want to get too scrappy, but if it ends up that way, then it will. Yeah, I can make it be that way. But I think it will just be a good night of boxing, if I'm honest.
Well, Lillie, thank you very much for your time today. Pleasure to talk with you, and best of luck on September 7th.
Perfect. Thank you very much.